What's up, YouTube? This is a review of the 2018 Juice Board from a college student's perspective. Okay, so the board itself feels really solidly built. The deck, I believe, is a maple and bamboo hybrid. The wheels are nice and gummy, and the best thing about the wheels is how big they are. They're labeled as 83 millimeters, so when you're going over rocks and cracks and bumps, the wheels really soak everything up well, kind of like on a mountain bike, why a 29er is preferable to a 26, because instead of going down in the crack, it basically just glides over it. Other than that, the bottom's pretty simple. Juice Board logo right there. Battery. This is the dual motor version, so there's two hub motors in each wheel. Solid truck. Over here you have your charging port, which is sealed against water. I have ridden this thing in the rain and it's done pretty well. No lasting consequences. One thing about this is every time you unplug it, and they even say this on their website, it's a bitch to stick back in the stupid. Then over here is actually a USB port, so you could run lights like LEDs all along the bottom of the board and connect them here, or if you had a USB cable for your phone, since this is a nice big battery, you could charge that while you're in class or something like that. On the other side, you have your on-off switch. Battery's on red right now. I'll probably try to charge it going down this parking garage because it's like 6 stories, but little indicator, it's green when it's from 50 to 100% full, blue 10 to 50, and then red is 10% and below. So I'm basically out of juice at this point. Press and hold to turn it off. One tap turns it back on. Other than that, grip tape is really nice. It hasn't worn at all. The front of the board is clearly delineated with the power button logo up front. The deck itself is really nice. Has a good amount of flex compared to most other longboards I've ridden. One great thing about this too is you can actually use it like a standard longboard, albeit a little bit heavy, if your battery does die. So you can push it just like a normal board, and it rolls pretty well. The bearings are really nice in this. So the remote that comes with this board gets the job done. Does feel a little cheap, but it's pretty simple to use. Stop, go. Stupid on-off switch on the side. It does have a high and low switch over here, but that just gets annoying because honestly the throttle is, it's not too sensitive to the point where you would ever need to ride in low unless you were just starting out. So I taped that off because the switches on here are really flimsy. So I would always accidentally switch it to low in my pocket and then hop on the board, and it wouldn't run the way I wanted it to, and I get confused and thought it was dead or something like that. So I just taped it off, but I guess it's a good feature if you're a new rider. And then also in the back here, That's where you put your batteries, but there's also a little switch right there. On the left is turtle, on the right is rabbit. So that's like beginner and advanced mode. I don't know why they put it in here. It's pretty much impossible to flip without a knife or a toothpick or something like that, but it does technically have 4 riding modes. But my advice, always ride it in fast mode. Alright, so let's talk about what this thing's actually like to ride. It's fun, it's fast, hauls ass everywhere, anywhere you need to go on campus, faster than any bike, car. You know, the speed limits around campus are 25, so this keeps up no problem. I ride it in the road, in traffic. People get confused and like old dudes on bikes yell at you, but it's not going to be an issue to ride in traffic. It's definitely fast enough. It accelerates fast. It brakes just hard enough without being overly sensitive or aggressive. That was an issue with the earlier models before they revised it for 2018. They said the throttle and the braking were pretty much all or nothing, but they apparently adjusted the algorithms in the remote to the point where it responds a lot better. It does have its shortcomings, which we'll go over, but overall I wouldn't hesitate to recommend that anyone buy one. As far as climbing goes, it's a lot better than I expected. You definitely do notice when you're going up a hill, but it does it surprisingly well. I have footage from 2 camera angles going up a hill. Hill climb test on the juice board. This hill's really steep. Board's on green, full power. Gonna go at it with no running start. See how it does. Full throttle. Starting off a bit slow. Probably around, I'd say we're up to about 12 miles an hour, so still gaining speed all the way up the hill. Pretty impressive. So yeah, well, it's not going to power up the hill like it wasn't there. It's definitely adequate, and the hill I tested it on is a lot steeper than what you'd expect to find on a normal campus. I'm a little ways out of town here to film this. It did it pretty well. I was impressed with the hill climbing. What I love is the regenerative braking. So basically, that's when you slow down, especially going down a hill, the kinetic energy that would otherwise be completely lost is actually regenerated and stored in the battery. I never thought it would make that significant of a difference, but actually I've been on blue or red before and gone down a steep hill, and it's actually regenerated up a power level, so it is significant. It's not going to charge your board from nothing to 100%, but it actually does make a difference. It makes your ride just a little bit longer, which is always nice. I've pulled buddies with a tow rope on this thing, and then going down a hill, when you slow down to slow them down, they pull you and you have their inertia and everything, and it actually charges it up a lot, which is pretty awesome. But that's actually a feature that I expected to be a gimmick that came out as being pretty useful. So as much as I love this board, everything has its drawbacks, and there are a couple of major flaws that I feel like I need to address. So first of all is the range. They advertise 6 to 7 miles. Honestly, unless you ride it like a complete grandma, even if you are trying to be a little conservative and not just gassing it everywhere, it's really more like 4 miles, maybe 5 around campus. This is a really hilly campus here at NAU, but it is somewhat less than I expected. I would like a little more range out of this thing. It does come with an extra battery, which initially I thought you could just like carry with you and swap out, but it's at least a good 10-minute process. You have to take off the truck and disconnect these wires and everything, and then pull off the battery cover to replace it, so it's not like something you can just remove on the fly. And then the second flaw, and honestly it's a more serious one, these little screws in the hub motor right here that hold on this little like end piece, these screws come out a lot. I have to tighten them up about every week. I did actually have one completely come out on me, and when that happens, you kind of hear like a strange clicking sound from the back of the board, and that just means the screws are coming out and this is not as secure as it should be. So maybe Loctite, I don't know. I think you do need to remove this to replace the rubber, which I'll need to do. It's interesting, like, I think it's just because of hard braking when the wheels sort of lock, but these back wheels have gotten chewed up from rocks really badly, whereas the fronts are completely smooth. So I don't think it's the quality of the rubber. I think it's just, like, if you're not on a perfectly smooth surface, you need to be judicious with your braking. But other than that, everything seems pretty solid. Like I said, there's been no issues with water or anything like that getting into the motors. But just those screws, they come loose really quickly. Like even after a ride or two. Another big thing with this board is how quiet it is. I've seen a lot of videos of electric skateboards and they just sound like they're, constantly making a ton of noise and sounding obnoxious. This thing is dead quiet. I mean, that was full throttle. You can barely hear that. It's to the point where riding around campus, people generally don't understand that it's an electric skateboard, and they kind of just look over and they're like, oh, okay, and then they kind of do a double take because they're like, what was that? This guy just flew by me on a longboard. With the earlier model juice board was the remote connectivity, like it would go in and out, and if you're flying down a hill like this, you want to have brakes at the ready. I haven't had an issue with that. Maybe once or twice it's kind of skipped out for a second or like done a little weird lurch or something like that, but the remote's been really good. It's consistent, it responds when you want, it works good, it really does. No complaints there. The thing is, when the board's on red, like it is right now, it doesn't die instantly. I've never really had it all the way die. It basically just gets exponentially slower. So like, I mean, you can kind of almost do like keep full throttle and then do like an assisted push to kind of help you along, especially going up hills. It doesn't like die all the way out. It just gets progressively slower and slower and slower. It's interesting.